Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? This is kind of not really official part two to the stuff I was talking about with Jordan Peterson and Jocko Willink. But it's kind of related. And so it wasn't a fair comparison, but it kind of was because they're both talking about careers. So before I jump into the meat of what I want to really get into, let me just say I'm going to make other videos for the rest of my life. I'm gonna have a lot of videos on YouTube, a lot. I don't, and I'll probably have more than one channel that'll have different content as well. I mean, full steam ahead as far as I can tell right now. So, but the thing is, with Jocko, you tend to take him more seriously when he talks about things like martial arts, as well as self-discipline and leadership. So martial arts are getting tougher, right? Fitness, all that stuff. Diet a little bit, but more martial arts, fitness, self-discipline, and leadership. Those are the things that you tend to take them most seriously regarding. Someone like Jordan Peterson, though, is now. I'll be honest, folks. There were so many videos by Jordan Peterson that came out quite some time back. Well, a little while back. I was literally overwhelmed with all this Jordan Peterson. I was just like, I thought to myself, this is a person I want to watch, but I need to digest his stuff bit by bit, slowly. But I kind of, I didn't want to get into this. I didn't want to dive completely into Jordan Peterson. But there's so much there. There is so much there online and YouTube and other. It's a gold mine of stuff, and I've known about him for quite some time. But he's scary accurate. He's scary shrewd. Maybe that's not the best way of wording it, but he's unbelievably wise. It's just mind-blowingly wise. But he's again, I've mentioned before in this first video, I don't always agree with everything he says. And let me just address particularly something that Jordan, as I mentioned, I'm going to be having more comments and critiques on things that Jordan Peterson has been saying, but not because I want to pick out all the things I disagree with. I actually will emphasize the fact that I tend to agree with him much more often than I disagree with him. Or it's not always that I agree or disagree with Jordan Peterson. It's more that it's kind of like it's interesting. I'm not sure yet how I think about some things, but I'm still digesting things. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. Still mulling things over. I'm not entirely sure what I think about quite a number of subjects. Isn't that how it always often is? It's just that a lot of folks will never say that. They try to say that because no one wants to sound uncertain. But the reality is, yes. And if someone says that, yeah, there's a lot of bravado. It's just fakery. But here we go. So Jordan Peterson is talking about things like dominance and being dangerous physically or mentally or psychologically, or being the bigger wolf, so to speak. Or he's talking about how that's a good thing. It's a good quality to have. That's something that in our relations with other people, it's good to be the big boy, or it's good to be like the one who has the upper hand, I guess you could say. Because then you won't get picked on, or you won't get taken advantage of, or you won't, like people will take you more seriously and all that stuff. So you can see why this is one of the bigger things I've heard by Jordan Peterson that I just no. So let's get into this, because this obviously we're talking about martial arts a little bit here. Toughness, just toughness in general, and just how one fares in life, and that's all that stuff. And I'm sure I'm going to butcher some of what Jordan's talking about to begin with. So I'd recommend you guys watch his stuff. Then you can critique me if you want to. It's just that the thing is that Jordan mentions that it's like the people that have both the light and the dark side in them, because we all have light and dark, especially as adults, right? There's a good side and evil side to us. He says that the most sometimes the most powerful people are those that have explored the darkest corners of their soul, or just really gone some really dark places, and they have control over that dark side, or they use that dark side, the power. In fact, it sounds like I'm talking about Star Wars here. I know. It's just, but it's like, if you think about it, George Lucas is no idiot. If you think about it, one of the most convincing things that's most thought-provoking about Star Wars is the fact that the Sith, the convincing argument is you need both the light and the dark sides of the Force to become truly powerful, like the most powerful kind of Jedi. And you can't just ignore the dark. You have to embrace both sides. That's thought provoking, because that's exactly what Jordan Peterson is talking about at some level. He's saying, in order to have the upper hand, or to not be dominated, or to not be picked on or bullied, or to not be taken advantage of, or to not be ripped off, or to not be emotionally abused, or and so on, all that other stuff, right? In order for that not to happen, or in order for you to protect other people, you need to have that darkness in your soul that you have mastery over, that you don't ever let out unless you have to, right? You don't let out the viciousness. You don't let out the awareness of evil that you strive to develop over time, unless your face is real evil. Then it takes guts. And then it's like, so you understand evil, so that it's not as frightening. He says that's a very important thing to have, because if you're completely naive, or if you haven't gone there, so to speak, right? You haven't explored the depths of those dark thoughts and things. So then you're going to be more vulnerable to those people who become aware of the fact that you're naive and vulnerable and all this stuff, emotionally, whatever. And then you'll get taken advantage of. That's what Jordan Peterson is saying. This is why I don't fully agree with that whole train of thought. And believe me, my religion is going to play into this. In my church, we talk about, like many other churches, just you gotta live the Ten Commandments. You just need to, in order to be righteous, or you need to do your very best you can. Okay. When somebody lives or strives to live a righteous life, an upright life, to one extent or another, to whatever extent they can, that effort to live a righteous life, there are so many things that help that person that we're just not aware of. So many things, and it's like, you don't have to believe in God it's good to believe in God. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's like, if you're an atheist and you believe that you're on your own, and that's a totally different ball of wax than if you believe in God and He's going to protect you and He's going to look out for you and it's a whole different thing. And whether or not you fall on one or the other side or some other thing, this comes into play here when we talk about this stuff. So just be aware that your own beliefs in this regard are going to come into play here. So I have, as far as everything I've ever remembered anybody talking about at church, I have never heard anybody advocate that we needed to we need to kind of, what's the word? Feed the monster, so the monsters don't feed on us, right? To make this more simple in a way. So Maury Sendak, bless his heart, I love Maury Sendak. When he wrote Where the Wild Things Are, it's for kids, but it's profoundly deep at the same time. It's just, this little boy, if you haven't read it, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's not a big deal. It's a kid's story, but it goes deep in a way. I mean, adults get a lot out of it too. You have a little boy who is sent to bed without supper or something like that. So he's not very happy with his mom, something like that, because he's been a little bit. So then he has I guess he's a dream, or it's like I don't know if he. In his dream, I think he's in this forest and there's all these animals. They're really big and they're kind of like human faces, but they have big beards and they're kind of more human-like, but they're kind of like a bear human, but they're giant. And at first they're kind of like, right, see our big claws and our big teeth and pointy teeth, and aren't we scary? And right. And they are kind of, much bigger than the boy. And the boy is just like, no, I'm not scared. And the monster's like, whoa, you're not scared? And like, so they're kind of like, well, you should be the leader. Wow. We've never, wow. And they're a little bit afraid of him now, the little boy, because the boy is so brave. And, there's some other things. So as the story progresses, I think the boy feels better because he's not the where the wild things are. The wild things respect the boy. They make him feel good about himself, or they kind of help him feel better about his issue with his mom. So I guess make a long story short, and they make him king and stuff, and then it's got to be awesome for a boy's self-esteem and his feelings. So when the boy wakes up, he kind of works things out with his mom very easily, and everything's okay. He's just like, I'm sorry, I love you, mom, and it's a great story. But Maurice talks about how a lot of this inspiration for this book and the illustrations had a lot to do with the wild things are like his grandpas or his big bushy bearded hairy Jewish grandpas and stuff, right? So yeah, I mean he talks about that. If you guys look it up on YouTube, it's there, and he was talking about how maybe there was his grandparents, so he wasn't like scared, but at the same time he's like a little bit scared because the big bushy beard. Where's the grandpa behind the big bushy beard? Oh, there's the grandpa, so it's okay. But low voices are big grandpa. So that kind of plays in to this whole story. So let's get back to Jordan Peterson here, mentioning this stuff. So, and my church and stuff. So, I'm going to just kind of mention more things about my church's teachings and stuff. Basically, it's just along the lines of the more godly you become, over time. The closer you get to God, the more He strengthens your life and strengthens you emotionally and gives you the strength to, stand up to evil and stand up to, frightening things and domineering people and all this stuff. So there's a real strength in that. And that's where a lot of the strength, we're talking about strength and power and authority and my religion, my church, it's derived from how you live your life and how badly you want to, live with God again, and how much you love God and sacrifice and all this stuff. And moral courage, yeah. And so that's what we tend to emphasize. And so watching the scary movies it's kind of de-emphasized somewhat, right? And then martial arts is fine. Just we don't say, of course, we don't want people to push other people around, but it's great. It's good to be able to defend yourself and other people. That's a good thing, right? But we're all different sizes, and that's one of the things about this life. We're all different, states of physical condition and ages and everything. It's just the way things are. So that whole arena is like okay, But what Jordan's talking about is kind of like that whole psychology thing and Sigmund Freud and all these dark thoughts and mastering dark thoughts, and it's incredibly spiritual. There's so much of what Jordan says that we agree with, of course, or many of us would, and many people in general. The thing is that when you get older, when you go through puberty, and each age that 14, 15, 16, 17, you have all these new thoughts, you have all these new feelings, deeper feelings that are brewing testosterone, but also, and all the things. There's all kinds of things that you just never experienced before that happen for the first time. And with time, you mull over stuff and you get wiser. And you have sometimes darker thoughts that, my religion say, if you dwell on certain kinds of thoughts, it can make you a worse person, even if you're trying to make yourself gutsy or trying to stand up to bullies or monsters or evil or demons or whatever it is. Right? If you entertain dark thoughts enough, certain kinds of dark thoughts, yeah, it'll make you more of a monster. Nietzsche said, when you gaze into the abyss gazes right back into you. Right? That's at the beginning of Baldur's Gate, right? Video game. That's very true. And so you cannot. The darker the thought is, and you know how dark a thought is based on how you're feeling, how frightened you are of something, how truly frightened you are, how averse you are to something, how unnatural something is, it makes you want to vomit, makes you have knots in your stomach, or worse, grown adults having nightmares about something. I mean, so on some level, even for a hardcore Marine or whoever it is, I don't care. It's the things that adults fear. If a full-grown adult who's a very brave person, very very level-headed too, not emotional. I'm more sensitive. I have a more sensitive personality. But talking about somebody who has a very thick skin, right? Let's talk about Jocko Willink, right? Whatever Jocko is afraid of, if he's afraid of something, you would rest assured that what Jocko is afraid of is pretty freaking dark. And whatever it is, it's probably a good idea to not dwell on those things too much, because it will definitely affect your character, even though if you're not aware of it. This is what Ezra Taft Benson would say the same stuff. Any leader of my church, and many other people too. It doesn't matter if you're Mormon or Christian. It doesn't matter, it just doesn't matter. It's really dark. So it's very important to limit yourself. So what Jordan Peterson is saying is that you also kind of, there's a, this is the deeper thing here. This is very deep, And Jesus went through all kinds of crap. We don't even know the smallest inkling of what he went through in the Garden of Gethsemane and all that stuff. But it's just that, so we go through these dark thoughts. We have these, fallen mortal thoughts. We need to master. Whatever they are, Jordan is saying, so it's just good to have these thoughts and work through them and come to a better spot, or a spot where we're aware of what it is that is dark, or those things, and we have come to a certain spot where you've made sense of something. You've made sense of something evil, mentally, internally, or if it's not directly evil or dark, it's just really twisted, or it's just very adult, not necessarily sexual, but just really just not something that you would ever think about as a kid, right? So Jordan said, once you've got mastery over that kind of train of thought, once it doesn't trouble you anymore, that sort of thing, and that's, oh man, and you that gives you power, right? That makes you, it gives you that kind of experience in life, authority, wisdom. So when somebody comes to you with a problem, or someone comes to you and they're trying to get the better of you, trying to be dominant over you, being a bully, or whatever it is, manipulating you, whatever it is, you're that much more prepared to not be dominated, right? Or not be bullied. And there's all these things, there's awareness of scams and shrewdness, that, there's all kinds of things that you can get more aware of and shrewder about. And then there's the physical side of all this, and just getting tougher and more in better in shape if you can, and So the problem, though, here's the problem. This is it takes all this explanation, though. This is not a light matter. The problem is it has to do with the extent to which a person feels like it's important to go there, to go to some darker places, in order to get the awareness of what it is, in order to conquer their fear, in order to, I hope I'm making sense here. If you've really looked into your soul, and you've looked at not only the light side but the dark side of your soul, the dark side, the things that are truly not good in your soul, or that you could do, that are really bad, and you've and you've asked some very hard questions to yourself. I mean, that's actually you've asked excruciatingly hard questions, things that you don't want to think about, and you've to some extent or another you've conquered the beast in you, right? That's a really good thing. But the question is, what is it that you have actually done? What thoughts have you thought? What's the overall objective? What's the overall goal? You're trying to gain mastery over anger or sexual hormones or whatever it is. What's the goal? And why are you doing this? And it's I'm you know um, it's just there's some very deep questions to ask here, and I don't fully agree with Jordan here about people being more like alpha male, so to speak, if they have um, been through these really crazy things and they have come out all the wiser. I don't know about that. I'd have to say, in all honesty, I'm this is something where I need to mull this over some more, but I'm fairly certain that I know what is true in this regard and what is more questionable. So God has his manly man, and Satan has his manly man. And I remember General Authorities talking about this in my church. And if somebody is taken advantage of, if somebody is hurt physically, if somebody's bullied, if somebody is just naturally a naive person, and maybe that's not seen, it's seen as a weakness, and all this stuff, what is really the overall end result of any of that stuff? Is that a permanent situation? No, and Jordan, I think, just wants people to not be taken advantage of. Just like martial arts instructors don't want people to get beaten up. They want people to protect themselves. I think that Jordan is benevolent here. I know he's a fine man. He's a good man. I'm not suggesting that he's anything other than that. I'm just saying we don't want to become monsters. We don't want to expose ourselves to things that would cause us to become more like a monster. Dehumanize, desensitize us. It's not vital to be traumatized. It's not like we all have to go through boot camp. But if you're going to be a soldier and you're going to have a gun and you're going to actually shoot people, maybe it's a good idea to go through boot camp, right? But that's probably not going to do wonders for your psychology. War is hell, right? But this is something that we respect soldiers because of that's a sacrifice. That's a very real sacrifice. Going to war, it should be deserving of our utmost respect, even though war is still evil, but it's like we have to defend ourselves. That whole train of thought. So, but it's not important for all of us to have to go through boot camp, so to speak. What is important, in order to get wiser and more well thought of, and someone who's not taking advantage of as much, what is important is to just have life experiences that come at us. We're not always aware what they're going to be, and God just seems to kind of give these things to us, right? From my belief, I don't always know why, but all these experiences are going to be for our good. And again, what's going to happen ultimately with the person that has all these bad things happen to them? That's a good person. They're just weaker than other guys, or they're more naive, and people take all their money, or you name it. Wife is raped. Whatever it is. What is the ultimate end all be all situation for that person if they remain a good person? they're going to be okay, right? They'll be fine. So if you don't believe that, if if you're atheist or if you just don't believe in an afterlife and all that stuff, I understand why you might have an issue with this, and then why you might want to take Jordan Peterson more seriously. What he's saying about this dark thing, this the predator kind of thing, and not being a victim, and not being, you want to be the predator, not the prey. You want to be. I just think it's worth watching. He is a very intelligent man, but it's okay to disagree with him a little bit or say, I'm not sure about this. Look, when I watched a lot of scary movies, I told myself, I was like, I'm watching this stuff because it's fun, but also I'm kind of trying to toughen up myself a little bit, trying to be less frightened about things. But if, I was probably curious. I was probably curious in my early 20s about, I've always asked questions about evil. Wanted to understand evil better because I was so confused and so hurt by evil when I was younger. I was. Usually in the form of bullies, but not always. And so I had questions about evil, and I wanted to be able to face off against a demon without crying or hiding. I had some of the worst nightmares you could possibly imagine. Just being a very sensitive person myself. So I thought watching scary movies would help me get braver. Well, and good quality horror movies, scary movies. It kind of did, sure. But, it's like there's still, I'll be honest, there's a curiosity. There's a curiosity about a fear and about conquering your fears and about the unknown. But there's also a curiosity that has to do with things that are closer to demons and witchcraft. Guess which one of those curiosities is more unhealthy spiritually? Yeah, you're right. It's the curiosity about witchcraft and demons. That's definitely unhealthy. So you don't want to be curious about. You don't want to be curious. How can I put this? You want to be able to, with time, understand evil better and better, so that you can fight it. Because greater understanding and wisdom gives you more power, right? But you don't want to experience things that are going to hurt your spirit. They're going to make you more of a monster. If that makes sense. No one wants to be traumatized. Being traumatized is not something that helps anybody. Toughened up maybe emotionally, like if you're in boot camp again. That's a little bit different, I suppose, but it's for a purpose. It's to make you Anyway, I have to wrap up this video. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Catch you later. Take care.